I didn't trust it, 'cause he smiled at me first.
Hey everyone, it's Ivan, KitBadger.com, out here today to go over building out my new Solus rifle from Aero Precision and more. I recently had the good fortune of going and visiting Aero Precision, not only getting a factory tour of arguably one of the most modern and just amazing manufacturing facilities I've ever seen, but I also got to build this rifle, which was an incredible experience. Being able to basically go through step by step, put this thing together and see also what goes into it, not to mention actually walking through the whole process of building out their silencers. Their Solus, that is this rifle, their Lahar line. Really amazing to see, then even got to do a little bit of shooting there. Such a cool experience. If you want to see the entire build video, as well as stuff on the Lahar, you're going to have to see it somewhere that doesn't hate freedom and, as an extension of freedom, firearms. Not to be confused with YouTube. Reason being is if I post this here on YouTube, they will most certainly give me a strike and delete my content, which seems suspiciously like the behavior of a publisher, even though they're very quick to hide behind the protection of a platform. Regrettably, their political ideology gets pushed through said platform, or maybe as a publisher, and I can't post it. So if you want to see it in its entirety, go over to places that don't hate firearms, such as X or Twitter. It'll be uploaded there, as well as over on Player and Rumble. You can see the full thing over there. Or if you just want to see some of the other stuff, then you get to see that here. After building out this gun, time to test fire it. And honestly, Aero has a nicer indoor range than most indoor ranges. And while they have a shorter side for like testing ARs, things along those lines, they have a longer side, 100-yard range, indoor range. And something that was really cool too, and it makes sense, again, think of the volume of shooting. They have a piece of paper that just scrolls, and it's a projected target onto just otherwise blank piece of paper, which is really cool. And so I got to sit down behind this gun for the very first time and put some rounds through it. They essentially have a scope that they use for just test firing. I want to say it's probably one of the like Vortex, their high end, the Chin 2 razors. And yeah, threw that thing on here, got down behind the gun and proceeded to shoot a 5-shot group. And you know how you get a really good 5-shot group? One, best practice is you don't break your shot, or sorry, break your position between shots. But one camera angle is kind of boring, so I managed to break it a couple times. Even with that, first time shooting this gun, trigger, everything like that, ended up shooting, I want to say, 0.61 MOA group. Honestly, really impressed. And then they were like, hey, we have some other guns, would you like to shoot them? Of course I would. Let's shoot some other guns. The first thing I got to shoot was their new 22 can. So much fun. Like, you can't go wrong shooting suppressed 22. Probably the most fun shooting you can have is suppressed 22. So really fun just getting to check that out and shoot that gun. And then they're like, would you like to shoot Of course, the answer is yes, I want to shoot more guns. So they ended up having their new Ambi-lower gun, and on that gun, also their new rail. So being an ambidextrous lower, I largely just kind of played around, just working on, more than anything, manipulating it, shooting as both a right-handed shooter as well as some as a left-handed shooter. And personal thoughts on Ambi stuff is it doesn't really, it's not my thing. And the reason I say that is LOT, logical order of thought. What's more important than shaving like maybe a couple tenths off of a reload for me is cross-platform compatibility. So being able to grab any gun and be able to shoot it with just whatever mil spec And if it has something extra on there, like I can either use it or not use it, but that personally is more valuable. But I also recognize the markets, like we want Ambi, Aero, good for them. We're like, cool, we'll give you what you want. And they made a pretty cool Ambi-lower. And their new Foreand, or handguard, I guess, kind of cool. One, barrel nut does not have to be timed, and importantly, just uses a USGI armorer's wrench. So a standardized tool rather than some specialized tool, which I again appreciate. And it's also more rigid. So if you do a lot of shooting, think at night with lasers, things on the forend that need to remain zeroed, this will definitely lend itself to that. Then of course they said, do you want, yes, I want to shoot the other gun. Let's do it. The next part of it was honestly just kind of a testament to the Lahar can that they make and its durability. People will look at suppressors and ask, hey, is that full auto rated? Never mind, they don't have access to a full auto, nor do they probably in a position to afford the amount of ammo it would take to burn out a can, but people ask, and so Aero answered. Short answer, yes. After I put a mag through it, they proceeded to put 7 magazines through it, back to back, eventually getting that thing cherry red. And yeah, that thing put in some work. So if you are curious, yes, it is full auto rated. Fortunately, since I am a FFL, we did a little bit of paperwork and threw this thing straight in the back of my car. Peanut was not as excited about it as I was, because awesome new rifle that I built. Next day, drove back. I was over on the west coast of Washington, drove back to North Idaho, went into my favorite local gun shop, East County Guns, and said, hey, I have this scope, I have this new rifle, I need some rings. Threw it up on the counter for me, threw it in these rings, got everything leveled out, scope mounted, while I basically hung out and talked shop. And then I also said, hey, I have this muzzle device. And they're like, hey, we got some rock set. Honestly, the things I usually go in there for are rings for some sort of optic and rock set, because I don't own any. So I went back there, got that thing torqued on. Reason being is, one, I have this can, and while I am going to get a Lahar, the Lahar actually uses a hub mount, so I can put a Plan B on there, and this is just honestly just a really nice, easy way to mount cans. So I then picked up 2 boxes of ammo, and that next day, after that rock set up, ended up heading out to the range to go shoot this gun. Initially starting, basically, I had zeroed the scope out, so I'm like, should be on paper. And I was breaking that first round at 100 yards. After that, I looked in my optic, made the corrections I needed to inside the optic, and proceeded to shoot another 4 rounds, initially with that Hornady Black. Pretty nice little group. I want to say it was probably just under an inch. And then I'm like, man, like, let's shoot a group with this stuff. And proceeded to shoot a 5-shot group at 100 yards, again, with that Hornady Black. That group came in at 4.79 MOA. I was honestly really amazed, because one, I'm not a half MOA shooter all day long, and really the second time ever shooting this gun, everything like that. Not to mention Hornady Black was the cheapest ammo I can find, which retail, I think where I bought it, $1.50 a round. Totally doable. So then I was like, why not shoot some of this ELD match I got, also by Hornady? And this entire time also gathering data. I had my new Garmin, that chronograph, friends over at Brownell sent out, and yeah, continued to gather data. ended up shooting this group with that Hornady ELD match. This group right here, unfortunately, that black pasty I was shooting at was a little bit under 1 inch. What does that mean? Well, basically, I don't know exactly how big it is. So the app I use to look at what actual group size is, you have to be able to measure 1 inch. Then it tells it like, hey, everything is this based on that measurement. Couldn't measure it, but was basically using that, or that group rather, to again fine tune, adjust the scope a little bit. I then shot another 5-shot group with that ELD match. With a flyer, came in at 9.19 MOA, still incredibly respectable. Without that, dropped it down to 4.5 MOA. So impressed with this setup. And because I'd been getting velocities that entire time, why not stretch this out a little bit? So I ended up shooting the smallest, furthest target there at that range is, I want to say it's like an 8-inch gong at 380 yards. So put it in my ballistic app, said, hey, come up 1.5 mils. I said, roger that. But I hadn't floated the turret yet. I actually still haven't as of filming this, just because I want to, well, more on that in a minute. But I was not going to dial because right now I'm at 2.2 mils is my zero. So I said, okay, I will just hold inside this reticle, and like magic, I did my part and this thing impacted. Really impressed with this gun. Had a ton of fun out there. I ended up actually going home that next day because probably had to do some real life stuff, maybe pick up my boys or something. And then the next day I needed to go out, actually zero another gun, another optic, but I still had some more ammo left. So why not shoot this gun a little bit more? Went out initially, straight cold bore shot, standing off this tripod by Ultradyne. And again, for the smallest target, I think an 8-inch circle, 380 yards. Still haven't floated those rings, holding 1.5 mils, and there we go. Ended up shooting the last couple kind of random rounds I had. I say random, reserving 5 of both the Hornady Black as well as that ELD match, and then I ended up shooting 2 more groups with this thing. Again, taking my time, seeing what I could do, and genuinely impressed. That 5-shot group shooting the Hornady Black came in at 0.808 MOA. Then shooting that ELD match by Hornady came in at 0.573 MOA. With vertical stringing, probably due to my breathing. Take me out of the equation, that was probably going to be one ragged hole. I am genuinely just really impressed with this gun on a couple fronts. One, really grateful for the opportunity to actually go build this and see what goes into it. On the one hand, I just really enjoy that process, like personally, but also getting to see it, it lends value. Like you see what goes into these things, and it's really neat. It's also in part, I think, with respect to this thing shooting, a testament to the modern, amazing machining that companies are capable of today. Like being able to crank this thing out and have it shoot like it does, that's amazing. And I think part of that also, credit where credit's due, I think I don't even if I even mention that, I chose to get this chambered in 6mm Creedmoor. I think it's an incredible round. It is a modernized 243 Winchester, which my son Jada, my oldest, he has a custom bolt gun chambered in 243. Does incredible work, and people have killed everything with a 243. It's a great cartridge, but A6 Creedmoor is just a modernized version of that. And I think it's one of those where you have to go out of your way to get bad 6mm ammo. Like there are so many great things going with that bullet that I think it's probably just really hard to not have good ammo for it. And with that said, about $150 a round for that Hornady Black. think that ELD match was probably closer to $1.75, $2 a round or something, but I'm excited to shoot this a lot more. I ended up, which is part of the reason I haven't floated this turret yet, ordered a case of Hornady Black. I think I got it at $1.45 a round, and a case of Federal Gold Medal Match. Really excited to do a bunch of shooting. Also a random assortment of single boxes of some different 6mm Creedmoor loads. And I've said it again, or I've said it, I will say it again. I'm not a fan of 308. I think it's done a bunch of great things. I think there's so many better options. In one of the things that I just spoke to is inherent accuracy of, in this case, 6mm Creedmoor. And you're like, but it's $1.50 a round. Yeah, and it's shot like 5-shot group, half MOA. That's amazing. How much are you going to spend to get 308 to shoot a 5-shot group? Probably more than $1.50 a round. And so I think there's, when it comes to accuracy, there's actually a value proposition with respect to things like 6 Creedmoor. And not to mention recoil impulse is awesome, i.e. not very much recoil at all. Thing sounds amazing with a can. Looking forward to getting the Lahar with that Plan B so I can throw it on here. And ultimately just doing more shooting with this. I will say this is not a light gun, totally slick. I want to say 11.8 pounds. I think we weighed it. Not super light, not grotesquely heavy either. I shot some NRL 22, I think it's called. Some guys had like 20-pound 22s. Needless to say, they did not recoil. But no, like I think it is definitely on the side of a competition gun. Don't really want to hike too far with it. And yeah, it is just cool. And really excited to spend more time with it. And eventually when I do, bring you guys a full review. But so far, I've yet to shoot anything over a 1 MOA 5-shot group, I think, with this thing. So if I ever do, I will let you know. But excited to see what this thing can do. Keeping in mind, I am not a 1 MOA all day long shooter. Not many people are. And yeah, this thing is working. So as I put in more time, I will bring you that full review. But yeah, as always, thanks for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.